But my first tournament was in Forest City, North Carolina.
Okay.
Never forget. I got second place in fighting. Guy that beat me put his leg up and never set it down and just kept doing this, and I didn't know how to defend against that.
Right.
And he beat me. And I got first place in forms, which is kata forms,
Right.
and I was very proud of that. And that was the moment I got the bug right there. And I'm like, man, I got these trophies. I love this. You know?
It was fun, huh?
Yeah, I had a blast.
Yeah.
It's fun when you win.
Welcome to Stuttering Your Way to Success. I'm Erik Weir, and I have a great guest today, Shannon Hudson. So I've been a martial artist my whole life. Shannon also is a martial artist, only he made a business out of it, and not just a local business like many people do, a studio. And if you really work hard, maybe you get 2 studios or 3, which should be fantastically wild. But we're pushing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and not just in the U.S., but internationally. So I want to talk to you as a martial artist, as a business person, who and our listeners who want to grow a business. They want to push through obstacles. They want to learn how to overcome limiting thoughts. And then, man, everything from like international law to franchise rights. There's so much. You've had to go from being an athlete to being a business person, and then you're a husband, and how do you balance everything? And let's just go to the beginning. What got you interested in martial arts to begin with?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. I'm excited
Absolutely.
to be here. My older brother, I have to give him all the credit. He's 9 years older than me.
I have an older brother, 7 years older.
Yeah.
How hard is that to give him all the credit?
Well, he works with me now for me. So, he's great. He started martial arts in 1979 when I was born, and I grew up around it. I remember as a kid going and watching him do karate class, and I was so shy. I would just sit on the side. And I just grew up. And when I turned 7 years old, I said, I got to try it. I want to try what my big brother is doing.
Sure.
And the karate school that he grew up in was not kid-friendly at all. It was a hobby for the owner. He did it after his job. It was all adults. It was sparring, which is person-to-person hitting right away. I mean, it's like, but I couldn't quit because my older brother was, really dialed in there. So I stayed with it. I loved it. I got the bug to compete in karate tournaments, and then and then my brother actually won a world title kickboxing.
No way.
In the 80s, kickboxing got on ESPN. It became pretty popular, and my big brother was a very good fighter. And of course, what I do, I followed suit. So I became an amateur boxer, amateur kickboxer. I just love to compete. I still love to compete today. I feel like I could compete tomorrow in the ring. I know I probably shouldn't. That's just my ego talking. But
Right.
And I ended up having a career. I had over 80 bouts, amateur and professionally combined. Wow. I fought in Europe. I fought in Canada. I won a world title as a professional kickboxer in Canada. And I had this bug to give the average person this secret sauce training that I learned without the getting hit part. That's the worst part, getting punched in the face. So let's take that out and just have it as a fitness and stress relief mechanism.
Right. Okay.
And we created this business called 9 Round, my wife and I, in 2008. Here we are in 20 countries, 550 units, and the rest is history.
Wow, that is fantastic. So do you see the discipline that you learned, I guess, as a child when you started, right? And you competed and sparred. And I remember doing some of that. I remember being dropped off at the karate studio, and how long are you going to be here? And come back to get you later. And the first tournament, and I'll tell you something about that too. But it was so fun. But I remember learning the discipline and the yes sir, no sir, so things you don't really hear as much today, or outside of a studio oftentimes. But how do your instructors kind of encourage people, because going from like working out by myself at a gym or bands or doing like some exercise on a bicycle or watching YouTube for exercise, how are you different?
My fitness program or me personally?
Your fitness program.
Yeah, great question. It's not as traditionally structured as, say, formal martial arts, where you go in, you bow, yes, sir. It's more about the exercise. But it's you do 9 rounds. It's called 9 round. So you do 9 3-minute rounds. Okay. There's an active break in between. So a break, but you don't really get to break. You might do jumping jacks or push-ups between rounds to keep you moving.
Okay.
And then you'll move to the next station, which is usually a bag. We have all the different types of bags of boxing and kickboxing: speed bag, heavy bag, wrecking ball, double in bag, bags people have never heard of. And that's what's the secret sauce.
Oh,
There's
wow.
so many neat things that people don't realize professional fighters do. And I wanted to give that to the average person
Right.
so they could experience and feel like a world champion in their world, because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. So if I go and exercise on my own, I burn X calories.
Mm-hmm.
How does that compare with doing something with you?
Well, kickboxing, I don't know if you guys know, but it is one of the best calorie burners, more than running. I mean, because we're going to jump rope, we're going to use every muscle in every direction, lower body, upper body, core, in all direction. You know, running, you get stuck in one direction. Nothing wrong with running. You have to run to be a world champion fighter for condition, right? But it works every muscle, all directions, burn a ton of calories. And you know what? It's you're learning a skill, which is something fun. When sometimes if you get on a treadmill or an elliptical, you're not really you have to put on something else for your mind.
Right.
This, you have to concentrate. You have to be in the moment, right there. You can't be thinking about work or homework or stress or whatever. You're thinking about just how to do this punch. I got to hit this bag, right? And that's the beauty of it.
Have you ever, when you were starting 9 round or growing it, did you ever have like man, this is like way harder than I thought, and you almost thought about throwing in the towel? Did you ever have a moment like that?
Yeah, about every day. I mean, so if I'd have known what I know now, it's hard. I mean, you get punched in the face, and I relate it to fighting all the time. You get kicked in the crotch sometime, and you're not expecting it. You know? And it's like, oh man, that hurts. Like the pandemic, it just hit us. Boom. You know, we weren't ready for that.
How does that? I mean, walk me through that. What's that like one day when the CDC says, "Hey, guess what? If you're at a health club, you're closed."
And we're classified as health club.
Wow.
Right. So it you know, my purpose on the earth is to get as many people punching and kicking as I can, and that's why I'm here.
Right.
And what drives me every day is people get empowered by doing this type of exercise. And then when the day, I think it was March 16th of 2020, when everything was shut down, we shut every location around the world down, every one. You talk about a heartbreaking day for me. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's been extremely hard. But you know what? We're fighters. We never give up, and we're coming back with a vengeance, man. So.
Right. Wow. That had to be overwhelming. How long did you stay? I'm sure different countries had different durations, but what was like the typical period you're shut down?
Well, you know what was frustrating? Canada, the Canadian government kept shutting down, like Ontario, open, close. They did it 5 times. Open, shut, open, shut, open, shut. I mean, how do you run a business like that? You just can't, right? So, and then other countries were stricter than others. Some countries, like the country of Texas, really had no rules. Just getting kicked. You just go, right? You get your gun and go, right?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's challenging when your brand spread across the globe so far. You have to deal with all these different government agencies and municipalities that all have their different laws on how COVID should be handled, and that's what the problem is.
In business, we always talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A SWOT analysis.
In your book, great book.
Thank you. Tell me, what are the SWOT for you? I mean, what are things that you think about?
Well, one of our strengths is our company as a whole is very nimble. We have 0 debt. I believe in paying bills right when they land. And the reason is that's how I want to get paid, right? I don't do any of this 30-day net BS. I just pay it, right? And we have no debt. We can turn very quickly. My wife and I are the majority owners of the company, so we can make decisions very quickly. All of our units are small square footage, so we don't have massive rents. We're 1,500 square feet, which is not big. So we can keep our expenses very low labor burden, not many employees to run our location. So again, we don't have a ton of expenses. Most of them are fixed. And it's service-based, and most people that do this that are in my brand are doing it like me out of passion. They're not really technically business people. They're they're passionate about helping their community, and we have to teach them the business side, which is a challenge sometimes. We teach them what a P&L, how to read a P&L.
Oh wow!
We teach them these skills, how to market, right? How to sell memberships. Those are skills they don't come to the table with a lot of times, and they just love the brand and love the concept, and we have to teach that. So that's been a hard thing for us to do, but we're doing it pretty doggone well. We're excited about it.
How is fitness changing today? I mean, I've seen, like beach bodies came out. I remember it was an hour workout or an hour and a half on certain days. And I'm like, man, that's a commitment. It was like the DVD or it was a long time ago, right? And I had the pleasure of meeting one of the founders of that in California. And now they've shortened it. But I mean, how has fitness changed from your perspective?
Well, first off, the modality of punching and kicking is more popular than ever. I mean, we have more competitors 9 round does than ever. There's So when we first started in 2008, we were the only real game in town, and it was just blue sky, and we were just freaking. We were opening 3 locations a week. We were just go. Now we have to really be strategic and how do we differentiate ourselves, right, and be different. But fitness is, I think, at-home fitness had a big climb during the pandemic. It's tailored off a little bit, but it's still a component that's, woken people up, and they're attuned to it now. And fitness is growing. It'll never go away. It's a growing industry. And yeah, we've had a few hurdles, but it's changing. There's boutique everything now. Some of it's silly even. You
Right.
see boutique this and that. I'm like, we try to be as authentic as we can. And from the founder, and my wife's a black belt as well, who's a co-founder with me. She's
That's great.
And so we try to keep the punching and kicking and the exercise is authentic to traditional and real deal stuff. No gimmicks, no frills. There's no machinery. It's just real learning how to punch and kick and get your heart rate up and have a great time.
How do you find people? Because I talk to people all the time who own businesses and say, man, we cannot find quality employees. If we find somebody, they're not reliable. And if we, and then they've just been really struggling with that, and you're saying back in the go-to days, you're up in 3 a week. I mean, how do you find people? Because it seems like there's a secret sauce in who you must hire or who has an affinity to work with you that may be different than what other people are experiencing.
That's a great question, and I don't believe in that. It's all my men. There's 8 billion people in the world. Where do they all go? Did they get raptured up and go away? They're there.
Right.
People are like, can't find. What do you mean can't find? There's more people today. That's why I joke with single people. I'm like, what do you mean? There's 8 billion people. You can't find one? One? You can't find one? Right. So I'm like, listen, the people are there. It's just all my mindset and the way I look at it. And I think that's what attracts the right people. I'm looking for, and I'm hiring for attitude, and trained for the aptitude, right? I mean, I'm not hiring for skill.
So is it easier to so to talk about that? That's key. I hire for attitude.
100%.
So what is that? I mean, I think I know what that means, but I want to read into it. I mean, if you're hiring people, some people look for I want to see your grades or how'd you do on this test, but you're looking at other things, right? And why is that important to your business?
Well, the only A I got in school was absent. When I was in school, I wasn't the best person for grades, right? But I hire for great attitude, open mind, willing to learn, coachable. That's what it's all about. Kickboxing is the movements are gross motor movement, meaning they're big and easy.
Right.
This, I can teach anyone to do that. That's an easy movement, right? It's not very complex. So if I find the right person that is passionate about it, loves it, and wants to learn, we'll mold that all day long.
Okay.
All day.
Okay. Do you have classes where you train instructors, or do you have your own studio? I mean, how do you maintain consistency? Because I know that if I go to a McDonald's in Macon, Georgia, or one in Seattle, Washington, it's about the same, right? That's really good. They call the book called McDonaldizing Your Business.
Yeah, I love it.
And obviously you've done that with over 500 locations. But I mean, how do you maintain consistency? Cross culture, cross country, different time zones. I mean, wow. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's the hardest part. And franchising, like the E-Myth, and you've read the E-Myth book.
Course.
I mean, it's all about consistency. That's what franchising is all about. So you have to put in systems and training systems in place. So even if you run a small business, or you have to have systems. Right? Most people in their house have a system. Like every Sunday's laundry day, right? There's a system. So if you just take that on a bigger level, how do you answer the phone? What's the script for that? What do you do when a customer walks in? What do you do there? So it's creating these systems and teaching these systems. That's how you duplicate yourself. If you don't do that, it's just a you show, and it's different every time. You never can duplicate it, and if you mess up, you don't know where it went wrong. If I do the same thing every time and I tweak one component, then I know that worked or that didn't work, and I know what the problem is. So it's all about creating systems.
Right. What would you tell someone who's a budding entrepreneur and they're like, hey, I've got a dream. I want to do whatever it happens to be, because you're entrepreneurial. You wouldn't be where you are, right? And your wife is. So, I mean, what would you tell somebody who's like, I'm in a job, I sort of have a dream, but I don't want to take a leap. I'm comfortable, but I'm sort of tortured. I mean, what would you tell somebody?
That's a great question, and everybody's risk tolerance is different, right? Mine's go all in, forget it, burn the boats. I'm going to make this freaking happen.
Right.
That's how I am, and that's how I'm wired, and that drives my wife crazy, right? She's like, whoa, and that drives some of my team crazy too.
Sure.
But if you're not that risk tolerant as I am, can you start it on the side? while you have your regular job, but on the
Right,
side
right,
hustle,
right.
you just hustle and build your empire on the side, and that's the way to do it. And do things like you taught in your book, save the raise, and do those things. Those are strategies that you can do it where you can eventually pull away.
Right.
Pull away from the job, right? The job, and go do your own thing.
Do any people do they come and work with you or become a franchise owner? Is that what you call it, franchise
Yes, sir.
or a franchisee?
Franchisee, yeah.
Franchisee. Do they ever have a side hustle? Like say, hey, I'm not ready to make the leap, or maybe I'm a fireman. Maybe I have a pretty dependable job, but I have a pretty predictable hours. I mean, does that happen?
Yeah, in the franchise world, we call it semi-absentee, and we do allow that. But they have to have a manager. You have to have a point. You have to have a chief, right? So you have to have a point. So, but the majority are owner-operators. And I'll tell you what the majority are. They're husband-wife teams or couple teams. One keeps their job, keeps the benefits coming in, while the other starts the business.
Okay.
And that's our magic formula that seems to work pretty doggone well.
Okay. Is there a key if I'm listening to this and I'm a martial artist and I'm like, I really like martial arts, but the thought of having a traditional studio, the white, the black belt, the cycle of that, the testing, all of that, and I kind of like what you're doing. How would somebody get started, or how would they reach you?
To reach out to me?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm all social media. I have all the accounts. Shannon the Cannon. The Cannon's my fighter name, right? So
let's talk about the Cannon here in a second.
It's the only thing that rhymes with Shannon. That's why it's called the Cannon, right? But yeah, social media, Instagram, Facebook, 9round.com. We're all over. They can reach out to me. But owning your own business, no matter what it is, whatever the passion is, you still have to learn these business skills: the marketing, the selling, the hiring, the training. Those are skill sets that people forget. That's why you have starving artists out there. They don't learn those skills, and they think just if I give good artwork, I'll sell it. Listen, I can make a better burger at my house than McDonald's, but McDonald's sells way more, right?
That's right.
So the best product does not always win,
right?
Which is kind of mess you up in the head if you don't understand that. Right?
Sure. Who are your mentors? I mean, who have you learned from?
I have great parents, very blessed. My dad was a military, he's a veteran and, very disciplined, so I learned a lot there. And my brother, of course. I read a lot. So when people think mentors, a lot of times they think sit down, have coffee with a mentor. But I believe you can get mentors through books, through podcasts, through what you're around. And I do a lot of studying and reading about not only business. I just read the Papa John story. He came out with a book. And what an incredible story. Learned a lot of things there. Read your book, just finished your book as well. And a lot of things there. So I have a lot of mentors. They're all over,
So what was your first tournament? I remember I grew up in Atlanta. I was originally part of the Chuck Norris Super System, right? Where he'd come by and give tests, and
awesome.
And it was fantastic to be with him. And I would say that in my life, my karate instructors, if you read the book, I dedicated part of it to them and their. Chuck Norris, one of the things that he would espouse is he had a code of ethics, and it was be as enthusiastic about the successes of others as you are about your own. And that was one that was number 8. That was one that still sticks with me today, 40 some odd years later. And I remember the Battle of Atlanta. I mean, that was like the big tournament to compete in. How were the tournament days for you?
My brother was in that tournament several years.
Okay.
I remember going to it and watching him. I never competed in it, but my first tournament was in Forest City, North Carolina.
Okay.
Never forget. I got second place in fighting. Guy that beat me put his leg up and never set it down and just kept doing this, and I didn't know how to defend against that.
Right.
And he beat me. And I got first place in forms, which is kata forms, and I was very proud of that. And that was the moment I got the bug right then. I'm like, man, I got these trophies. I love this.
It was fun, huh?
Yeah. It's fun when you win.
Yeah.
It's not fun when you lose, right?
Trophies have gotten bigger. Have you noticed that? Their first place was like that when I was competing. The last time I won, they're like as tall as I am. So.
Now they just collect dust in the attic, right?
Exactly. Well, that's so fun. What instructors have you either, or names we'd recognize in martial arts, have you had the privilege of learning from? And then what did you learn from them?
I was very blessed to have some great instructors. Joe Louis was one. Now, not Louis, Louis, which the boxer is Lewis, who was one of the first brought kickboxing to America pretty much, was in the 60s. He trained with Bruce Lee for a couple years, and I learned a lot from him. He passed away in 2012, but I got my 4th degree black belt with him. I also got my 3rd and 4th degree black belt with Bill Superfoot Wallace, and I work with him closely now, even help him with some of his business videos and things. And So my brother was a great instructor for me and still is, obviously one of my greatest. And then my brother and I had a Tai Chi instructor who grew up in a Shaolin temple. We trained for 5 years with him. He had this big beard. I mean, he's like Mr. Miyagi, right? And he couldn't speak hardly any English, but we learned so much from him. And I've been around the martial arts my whole life, and it's all amazing, and it's done so much for me, and that's why I'm so passionate about what I do. So,
do you think it's important as an entrepreneur to have a passion? I mean, or is it just like, hey, I don't want to work for somebody else?
Yeah.
I mean, how? I mean, do you think you could be an entrepreneur doing anything, or do you think it's more of like it's important to align your passion with your activity?
Totally. I mean, Steve Jobs said, if you're not passionate about it, you're going to end up quitting because it's so hard. It's so hard. I mean, if you don't love it, you're going to end up quitting it. Because it's too hard. You need to have this deep burning passion for it, I believe.
Has there ever been a point where you've taken risks where you're like, I'm going beyond the prudent business risk. I'm going like live in your car, like head you win, tails intergalactic, I'm in the back seat of the car. You ever had those decisions as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, of course. Especially launching 9-round. Launching a business is like launching a rocket. It takes so much fuel and energy, and you're going to take some risk. But if you believe and you're passionate, you're going to make it happen. And I remember my wife and I, we barely had enough money to get by. I mean, we had a newborn baby. I had a new stepdaughter. It was add water, instant family, right? Family from 1 to 4 like that. And love it. My kids are amazing and family's amazing. But it was some very hard days. There were no sushi dinners. We didn't do that. I mean, that's too expensive, right?
Sure.
But you believe in what you're doing and you're fired up by it. You're just fired up every day to do it.
How do you view fear? Because I know when you're competing, and I competed, and but how does fear? How do you look at fear? And there's physical fear, there's fear of competition, there's fear of failure, there's all kinds of different fears, right? There's even fear of success, right? There's all kinds of fears. How do you face fear? And do you have a self-talk that you use to like, hey, when I'm feeling over, do you have a go-to routine that you do to like get back on track if you get off track?
Yeah, you know what? I'm scared every day. Mm-hmm. Do I have a fear of failing? Yeah. That's why I think I work so hard. I don't want that to realize, to come to reality. Mm-hmm. So I try to translate fear into just nervousness. Like before I would fight back in the day, I remember I'd be getting my hands wrapped. You would get your hands wrapped and before you put them in the gloves, right, to protect your wrist. And I would be so nervous, and I would think to myself, what did I get myself into? Right. Why am I doing this to myself? Yeah. But after it, though, I'm like, I loved it. I loved it, and I enjoy pressure. And, as far as fear, I've been learning to meditate and center myself and focus on my breathing and can try to control my thoughts as best I can. I have affirmations and goals I read every single morning. That's my routine. Okay. Affirmations like, I am enough, I am strong, I deserve to be here. Things like saying those things to myself, get you in the right frame of mind. Because sometimes you wonder, am I good enough to do this? You question yourself, right? And I think everybody does every single day. And if you can, create a routine that works and gets you confident and centered and ready to go tackle the day and kick some butt, that's how you win. That's how you do it.
That's awesome. Setting goals. I'm a huge.
Me too.
I love setting goals and planning and visualizing. So walk me through. I mean, is there like you do a 3-month, you 1 year, 3 or 5 year? You said affirmations and goals every day. That's some powerful stuff. So how?
But it only takes 10 minutes.
That's right. That's right. Why is that 10 minutes important?
Well, in the morning, it's easy to get up and just start going. And the day just takes you. I mean, you just like, you're showering, you're eating, you're getting the kids ready for school. I mean, I take my kid to school every single day. And I make him breakfast and take him to school every single day. It's my little routine. And then after that, I go and I close the doors in the office and I sit. And that 10 minutes is just me time. And before that day takes me, I got to have that me time. Mm-hmm. I got to have it. And it gets me ready. So I think everyone should just take a few minutes to and the first things I say in my journal, it says, thank you. It's the first thing I do.
Gratitude.
100%. Thank you. My left foot hits the ground, say, thank, right foot, you. God, I got another shot, man. I get to go.
That's it.
So that's what it's all. I start right there.
Okay. Do you find that your gratitude, and it sounds like not be to rhyme, but is correlated to the altitude you're able to climb, right? I mean, yeah.
100%. 100%. I mean,
Why do you think people struggle so much with being grateful? I mean, you've been around the world. I've been different places. You go to other countries and you see people with less, and sometimes they might even seem happier. You see people in poverty, and they seem like there's a joy or a smile on their face. So why do you think people struggle so much with gratitude? And then, if it really is being grateful, is there a way to go from being not grateful to grateful? Do you think somebody who's not grateful could find gratitude?
It's easy why it's a struggle because it's not taught.
Right.
In school, you didn't take Grateful 101.
Right.
They didn't teach you. It needs to be a skill that's taught, and I think it's taught in the household with the parents.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching my kids how to be grateful for. We have nice things. We get to eat the sushi dinners, and are we grateful for that? Are we thankful? Are we thankful for the roof, the clothes, the being alive, right? Are we thankful to feel the cold air outside? I mean, that's the stuff. And they look at me like I'm silly, Dad. You're silly. I'm an old guy and I'm silly, but I'm telling you, they're learning a skill right now, which is how to be grateful that I don't think is taught. And I think it needs to be taught. And that's how and can someone become not grateful and grateful? Absolutely. Of course they can.
That's great. If you would go back and say, hey, you've been doing this for some time. If you could go back 20 years ago and talk to your younger self, and what would you tell yourself?
Slow down. Sometimes back to SWAT. I mean, one of my weaknesses is I'm extremely impatient. I like to go. I have this joke. I go around the office saying, "Fast is fun. Let's get it done. Fast is fun. Let's get it done." And everybody don't want to hear that anymore. They're like, "When you want it, Shannon?" I'm like, "How about yesterday?" And they're like, "Ah." So sometimes I push my speed and impatience on people, and it can irritate people. But if I could just slow down a little bit, even as a youngster, if I could have slowed down and appreciated some of the experiences I had that I didn't realize were so. I got to see some great speakers when I was young, like Wayne Dyer, Zig Ziglar.
Yep, sounds like too. Yeah.
And I didn't realize how great these people were. I was just this 20-year-old kid that my brother drugged to this seminar, drugged me, and I'm so thankful for today. And I wish I'd have realized what I'd known there, what I was looking at,
My favorite was Zig Ziglar is you need to check up from the neck up. That was if you had a bad attitude. You weren't grateful. Check up from the neck up.
He's awesome.
He was fantastic.
He was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. He'd always sign everything. I'll see you at the top.
Yeah,
Zig
top.
Ziglar. How important is balance? Because in life, and what does balance mean? It doesn't necessarily. Does it mean equal time? Does it mean equal focus? Does it mean being aware of imbalance? I mean, what does balance mean to you? And then how do you achieve it? Because it seems like you're working with your wife. Some people would be a dream to do that. Other people are like, I would never want to do that, But you have a partner there, a business partner, a life partner, and so kind of walk me through the importance of balance in life.
I learned this from Lisa Nichols. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she spoke at one of our conventions, and she said there's no such thing as balance, it's harmony. And I believe that. I can spend 2 hours with my kid on the couch and we're watching TV and I'm kind of half listening, looking at my phone. Or I can take 30 minutes with my son Jackson and go play basketball and I'm just like zoned in with Jackson, man. It's me and Jackson. And he'll remember that 30 minutes way more than that 2-3 hours on the couch. So I don't think you need to look at time like that. I think you need to look at harmony. Am I giving the focus, intensity to my wife, to my kids, to my spirituality, to my fitness? Like 9 Round, we say you don't need more time in the gym. You just need more intensity. You just need 30 minutes of focus, baby. You don't need 2 hours of waste in the gym. So I look at it as, when I look at my parts of my life, it's not balance. Are they balanced? Just am I in right harmony, moving the right way through life?
So HIIT training, high intensity training.
Yeah.
So walk me through that. But it seems like it goes beyond the gym in your life, right?
Totally.
It's not just high intensity training.
100%.
But what is the high intensity training? How is that different? And then it seems like it has application beyond the gym.
100%. High intensity training is doing something for a short period of time at the maximum intensity you can do it. And that's how I believe in everything I do. I read a book, I read it. I'm in on the book, man. A bomb could go off over here. I'm still reading the book, right?
Right.
So it's about being able to focus. I think one of my superpowers is being able to laser focus really hard on something and get it done. Get it done fast, but get it done well, right? And yeah, it goes into everything I do. That's how I try to do it. I have this little internal. I want a world title as a kickboxer, but I want to be a world champion in other areas. I want to be a world champion husband. I want to be a world champion father. I want to be a world champion CEO. So I think and everybody in our gym, we try to make a world champion, not in punching and kicking, but in their life. So that intensity goes to anything you do.
if you were to give a person who's listening here, and hey, I'm in my early 20s, just graduated college. I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm trying to find my passion. I'm comfortable, but I'm just kind of, blah. Do you have any suggestions to somebody like that about how to take a step or not that you can solve it all in one day, but any suggestions?
It's a great question. I mean, my daughter's 22 and she just finished college and she's going through this.
Okay.
Right. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was 27.
Right.
And I don't think there's a magic age that now you should know what you want to do. Now you should know you're 25.
Right.
There's not a magic age for that. It'll come to you. If you keep searching, it will come no matter what your question is. Erik,
Right.
if you keep putting it out there in the universe, like I want this answer.
Right.
How do I get this? How do I get this? How do I get not? I can't get this. See, that shuts you down. You say, how can I?
Ooh.
How
wow.
can I get more members?
Yeah.
How can I get more leads? How can I get more dollars?
Yeah.
How can I get a beautiful spouse? How do I get my kids to have better grades? Don't say I can't get my kids to get better because it just shuts everything down. So how can I do it? It'll come to you.
Yeah, I have 5 sons, and when they were doing school, I would hear things like, I can't do this. I'm like, whoa, hold the phone.
You said in your book, you
I
don't say that.
presently struggle with. You acknowledge the
that.
difficulty. You recognize it's also transitory.
And saying the word yet.
Yeah.
I'm not good at basketball yet. Right? I'm not good.
That's right.
I don't have $1 million yet.
That's
right. But I'm getting
That's
there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. What's next for 9 Round?
Well, we're reinventing the brand. It's so exciting. I mean, we were at 800 units. We got knocked back to 550 from the pandemic and, just the crisis of labor cost and, recession and inflation and all these things happen, which has forced us to go, whoa, let's reinvent this thing. So now we're doing some very neat things with technology. We're opening the studio up for a 24-hour access model.
Really?
Which
Wow.
is so unique and fun where they can self-guide, but yet we have certain times a day with instruction and trainers on the floor. We're adding a personal training one-on-one component if you want a higher level service to it. So we're just reinventing the brand, and we got a great team that's doing it. It's a ton of hard work. It reminds me of 2008 when we created it first. It's like starting back there to square one because we're just thinking differently about the brand and how do we differentiate ourselves from the competitors, give the consumer a great product for a fair price.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything less in closing that you want to tell our listeners?
Hey, I don't believe 9 Rounds for everyone, but I believe everyone should try it at least once. Give it a try and see if you like it. And hey, be a world champion, whatever you do.
That's great. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me, Erik Weir, on Stuttering Your Way to Success with my guest today, Shannon Hudson, the co-founder of 9 Round, has gone from 0 to over 500 locations.
Yes, sir.
And he's here to make your life better. Thank you.